Today on Christian World News, Iran elects a new president. What does he believe and what will the impact be on Christians?
Plus, secret believers. Christians from several nations of the former Soviet Union came together recently. We were there to witness this once-in-a-lifetime event.
And she truly is the blind leading the blind. But this Christian woman is helping Muslim children overcome their disabilities and live their lives to the fullest. Historic, the Islamic Republic of Iran has a new president. Hello everyone, I'm George Thomas.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. After 8 turbulent years under Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, Iran has a new president. His name is Sayyid Hassan Rouhani. But who is he? And does he represent the change the West is hoping for? Here's Chris Mitchell from Jerusalem.
Iran's new leader is Western educated, speaks 6 languages, with a long resume in Iran's Islamic Revolution. Unlike the abrasive Ahmadinejad, he presents a softer image. His election led some Western leaders and media to brand Iran's new president a moderate who can change Iran.
Nothing is going to change.
Hebrew University professor Moshe Sharon says Rouhani differs from Ahmadinejad in style, but not in substance.
You should expect in the coming few months some kind of an overtures by this nice-looking man. He's got a fatherly face, speaks the right language, speaks the language which he knows that the West wants to hear, while exactly continuing with the plan of Iran to enrich uranium.
He's a clergy, as I said. He's Hojatul Islam wal Muslimin, which is a high degree of clergy, not Ayatollah, but pretty high in the ranks of Shiite Islam.
Iranian expert Tamar Gindin says a cartoon posted on Facebook shows the essence of Rouhani's election, where he's shown painting a beautiful Iranian missile.
It looks much better, but it's still a missile. And he said himself that they're not going to stop the centrifuges.
While the president is the face of Iran, the real power lies with Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei.
Don't think that Rouhani is going to develop his own policy. There's not going to be such a thing. He's going to present a policy which is going to continue to be created by the Supreme Leader.
Those policies include Iran's nuclear program, its support of Syria, and an alliance with Russia. Rouhani also has a long history in a regime that persecutes Christians, tortures dissidents, and built the world's largest terror network. While the West takes stock of Iran's new president, both Gindin and Sharon say the centrifuges will keep spinning, while Iran draws closer to a nuclear bomb.
The danger is that because he's nicer, he can buy more time. And then it might be too late.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Joining us now is David Yegnazar of Elam Ministries. David, great to have you back on the show. Let me ask you, Rouhani's election, do you see this as a positive development for Christians? And if so, why?
Well, I would say that the election of Rouhani as the president could be reason for some cautious optimism for Christians. And that's not because he is a reformer who wants to change the Islamic Republic, but because he is a pragmatist who realizes he needs to do a deal with the West in order to lift some of the sanctions that have hurt Iran.
Do you think that pragmatism could work out badly also for Christians?
The reality is, even if the pressure is lifted, Christians will continue to be monitored, they'll be continued to be observed by the government, and they will live with the pressure that any time persecution could come back. And so it's important for us to continue to pray. This is certainly nothing has changed, and it won't change overnight. There could be some better days ahead, but at the same time, the fundamental system is not going to change, and Christians will live with the knowledge that pressure could come back at any time, persecution could come back at any time.
In 2005, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad began his term as president by cracking down on Christians. 8 years later, what has been his legacy as it relates to the underground church in Iran?
under President Ahmadinejad's governance, the church has certainly suffered more. Hundreds have been arrested. People are still in prison. Some have been suffering greatly for a long time in prison. At the same time, the church has grown. So most Iranian Christians, of course, will look at the hardship, but really look to the fact that over the last 8 years, the church has grown. And whatever they did to try and put pressure on the church to make it go away and to stop the activities and to stop people turning to Christ has not worked. In fact, more people are coming to Christ now every year than when President Ahmadinejad first came to power. So they need to realize that persecution will not stop the church growing.
However, David, we learned this week that several house church Christians have been sentenced to jail. Might that be a sign of Rouhani's strategy or what's going on here?
I don't think that has anything to do necessarily with Rouhani. I think that was just something that was in the pipeline beforehand, though I don't know the exact details on that. But we are hopeful that there will be some lighter days for the church, but at the same time we understand that that doesn't mean that fundamentally things are going to change under this regime.
Just before the election, the state told the Assembly of Church God in Tehran to close its doors. Do you have an update on their situation for us, David?
Well, it's a sad situation that basically because this church, the Central Assemblies of God Church in Tehran, has its services in Persian, they have been told to cease their activities. As far as I know, that hasn't changed. We need to continue to pray for Pastor Aserian, who's in prison, one of the leaders of that church who was arrested, and the members, the congregants of that church who are still without a church building to go to. But what we do know is that they will continue to meet together in their homes because that's their right to worship the Lord and to practice their faith.
David Yegnazar, great ministry, Elam Ministries. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.
Thank you.
And to learn more about Elam Ministries and their work in Iran, you can go to our website, cbnnews.com.
Supporters of Egypt's Coptic Christians met this week in Washington. They warned the Copts face growing persecution from Islamists under the rule of President Mohamed Morsi. British Baroness Carolyn Cox referred to several recent incidents of violence and quoted a Nigerian bishop who has seen Islamist persecution in his own country.
He said, if we have a faith worth living for, it's a faith worth dying for. Don't you, that's us, compromise the faith we are living and dying for. My friends, my concern is we are compromising that faith, which others, including the Coptic Christians in Egypt, are living and dying for. I believe that we who have freedom must use our freedom to defend the freedom of others.
Baroness Cox is chief executive of the Humanitarian Aid Relief Trust.
A week of massive protests has shaken the nation of Brazil. Protesters say they're tired of paying high taxes while getting low-quality services from a corrupt government. Meanwhile, there are security concerns for the thousands of foreign visitors attending an international soccer tournament. As the crisis deepens, the Brazilian church is praying and taking action. A coalition of ministries has mobilized thousands to share their faith near the stadiums and among the protesters.
The Bible Society of Brazil is coordinating a movement, Fair Play Brazil, which is an effort to awaken people to ethical principles, the principles of life that the Bible presents.
Churches are also preparing to share the gospel with hundreds of thousands of visitors coming to Brazil for the World Cup soccer tournament in 2014 and the Summer Olympic Games in 2016.
Well, hope, faith, and love were in great abundance as Hispanic Christians from across the USA joined together for a 3-day conference to talk about issues affecting the Latino community. The event culminated with a powerful prayer breakfast. Paul Strand was there.
Music and prayer filled the room at the National Hispanic Prayer Breakfast. Hundreds gathered to pray for the nation, their leaders and communities, world peace, and more.
we know that there is power in number, and the Bible says that a three bonded cord is a lot stronger than a two bonded one. And I think that, that is true in every sense of the word.
One topic on everyone's mind?
It's been so many years since President Bush declared that we needed to create some comprehensive immigration reform, and now President Obama is in his second term, and he promised us in his first term that he would do something about it. Nothing happened. We're in his second term.
Will it pass? If so, when?
We spoke with Senator Reid, and we're hoping that by July 4th, the Senate will have an agreement. We spoke with leaders of the Republican House, Mr. Cantor and his leadership team, and they're going to be picking it up right away. So it is our hope and prayer that we will have immigration reform before the summer's over.
Even though the measure appears to be gaining steam, it could still take time.
Romans chapter 2, verse 12 tells us, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. I can't think of another community that Romans describes better than yours.
Immigration wasn't the only thing on people's minds.
Education is the key. I'm talking about education in terms of learning the language effectively, learning a profession, so you learn the skills to be paid a little more money, and you can live, at a better income level, better standard of living, and therefore improving the possibilities for your children to do better in life.
And there was one common theme at the event.
We live in a world that is in chaos, and the truth is the church is there to present hope, and we're here to represent the arms, the feet of Jesus.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, they came from across Central Asia, secret believers who are truly living out the gospel under tremendous persecution.
From CBN.
Someone forgot to lock up.
Everyone deserves a second chance.
And you're sure it was Sharon?
Definitely, Principal Travis.
Maybe this time we can help her make another choice. What's up?
I can't believe it. Sharon Meyer stole a bike in broad daylight, and Miss Travis just wants to let her slide by. Superbook!
Log on to CBN.com and receive Superbook's newest episode, Jonah, for your gift of $25.
Nineveh. God wanted me to warn them he was about to pass judgment. I say no. If Nineveh is doomed, then let it be doomed.
Get off this ship!
I thought fish were slimy on the outside.
Give the children you love the Word of God as a foundation in their lives.
People of Nineveh!
It is amazing. Your words have been heard by all of Nineveh.
Superbook Jonah, available now.
He healed the sick, walked on water, and rebuked the storm. Jesus performed miracles that changed the world, and he shared the secret to that power with you and me.
Gordon Robertson, in his latest DVD, Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer, takes you on a journey from King David's palace to the Sea of Galilee, revealing the mystery and the meaning of the greatest prayer of all time. You'll discover a deeper relationship with God, what it means to overcome evil, how to pray in the power of the kingdom, and the life-changing purpose God has for you. As a special bonus, you'll see a tour of some of Israel's most important sites and learn the amazing discoveries that are being uncovered today.
Learn how to pray the way Jesus prayed and release the power of God's kingdom in your life.
Get Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer, available now.
100,000 Christians are murdered because of their faith every year. In many cases, governments are to blame because they pass laws that restrict religious freedom.
Yeah, a few months ago, I had exclusive access to a gathering of secret believers inside a former Soviet republic. And I got this close-up look at what life is really like for Christians who face daily persecution.
The setting could not have been more ideal.
This is a beautiful location. 70% of the country is mountainous. Locals call it the second Switzerland of Asia.
It's wintertime in Kyrgyzstan.
Our goal was to find a safe place away from the city to not draw attention of the authorities.
For a few days, Vitali and a handful of Christians gathered in this secluded villa tucked away in the mountains, about a 2 hours drive outside the capital city, Bishkek.
We worship, pray, and strategize how to effectively share the love of Christ in our countries.
CBN News cannot show you their faces or reveal their real names for security reasons. In this room are secret believers from Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Tajikistan, all former Soviet republics in Central Asia, experiencing a rising tide of hostilities against believers. All are members of a Christian ministry that's reaching young people in the former Soviet Union.
It is practically impossible to openly share about Jesus Christ. Doing so will get you beaten, arrested, or killed.
Marat is a youth leader from Uzbekistan. Last year was a difficult year for you.
Fortunately, I wasn't arrested, but I was repeatedly interrogated by secret police, accused of gathering people in my house. They said that what I was doing is illegal.
He runs an informal Christian school training Uzbek leaders.
The pressure is unrelenting. You can't relax. You're constantly under stress. You cannot trust anyone because you don't know if they'll turn you in or accuse you of proselytizing.
Daoud is from Kazakhstan, the largest of the 5 Central Asian countries. There were no Kazakh Christians back in 1990. Today, however, there are 15,000. But strict religion laws make it very difficult for churches to register.
According to our law, you cannot attend church until you are 18 years old. That means we cannot hold youth meetings, discipleship classes, or Bible study.
Ferouz is from Tajikistan. This is home video of a secret house church smuggled out of the country and obtained exclusively by CBN News. The meetings are small and typically held in a believer's home.
The people in this video know exactly what's at stake. Our parents taught us from childhood that one day we may have to sacrifice our lives.
7 million people live in Tajikistan. 1,000 of them are Christian.
Each life counts. God says, be thankful every day, rejoice in every soul that comes into heaven. That's what keeps us going, one life at a time.
Religious freedom exists in all 5 countries under the Constitution, but barely. While Islam is the dominant religion, a more radical expression is taking root in Central Asia. Dmitry Kabak is a human rights lawyer in Bishkek. He says fear of radicalism has led governments to adopt laws controlling all religions, including Islam and Christianity.
Groups from Saudi, Turkey, and elsewhere come in with a different interpretation and practice of Islam. That worries the authorities. Some of the radical groups have engaged in terrorist activities.
Oleg works in remote villages of Kyrgyzstan. He remembers what it was like spiritually soon after the fall of the Soviet Union.
There was a lot of freedom in the 90s. People could openly share the gospel. But eventually, Islam started to make a move and gain influence.
Up here in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan, the horse is another popular mode of transportation, especially to get around some of these tough terrains and these steep hills. You know, for the believers, this is a spiritual oasis because it's an opportunity to get away from the almost daily routine harassment and persecution from the authorities and to come together in a safe place, a beautiful place, and to get spiritually energized.
The beauty, the backdrop, the scenery, what a wonderful distraction from our daily challenges. To see Kyrgyz, Uzbek, Kazakh, and Tajik believers in the same place at one time is so encouraging. We draw strength from each other. We know we're not in this spiritual battle alone.
Encouraged, refreshed, and re-energized, the believers are back home now and uncertain of the days ahead. Yet they stand boldly convinced of a calling to make the name of Jesus Christ known, no matter the cost.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, and you know, it's a respite. It's an oasis in the midst of all the challenges they face, and they come together. They get refreshed and energized, and really they realize that they're not in this alone. They're together with other believers.
Fantastic report.
Thank you.
Thanks for making the big journey over there. Wow. Well, coming up in East Jerusalem, a blind Christian woman leads Muslim children to hope. CBNnews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
Efrem Graham, CBN News, New York.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore. CBNnews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
Embassy in Washington, Eric Stakelbeck, CBN News.
The source for your news, CBNnews.com.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
He healed the sick, walked on water, and rebuked the storm. Jesus performed miracles that changed the world, and he shared the secret to that power with us.
Learn how to release the power of God's kingdom here on earth.
Get Gordon Robertson's latest DVD teaching, Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer. Available now.
And welcome back to this week's edition of Christian World News. Our next story gives new meaning to the proverb, the blind leading the blind. Well, it's happening in a small learning center in East Jerusalem.
That's right. That's where disabled Palestinian women are learning skills that give them confidence and hope for a more productive life. All because of a Palestinian Christian who would not allow her own blindness to keep her from helping others. Heather Sells reports.
Every time Lydia Mansour goes grocery shopping, she faces obstacles.
The roads are very, very, very difficult, and they never think of blind people, at least not in East Jerusalem, all the West Bank.
Miss Lydia shops not only for herself, but for 36 students at the Peace Center for the Blind, an educational and vocational center she founded 30 years ago in East Jerusalem. Although she's a Palestinian Christian, her students are mostly Muslim.
The purpose for this center is to help these women to be independent. If we hadn't started this center, many people would be left without education, without a job, without any interest perhaps in life.
Karima joined the staff after going through the school's vocational training program.
They gave me the permission to do everything, and I feel confidence in myself.
Students learn to read and write along with skills they need to take care of themselves. They create products to sell, giving them an opportunity to earn an income.
Each individual has special attention, and we get through the individual just up to where they need to go. Some finish universities, and if not, they go to the vocational center. At least they have something to help them in the future.
Miss Lydia was born near Jerusalem and lost her sight when she was only 2. But she was determined that blindness would not hold her back.
As I grew up, if I took over something, I was always determined to do it. If I was quite convinced that this has to be, I always got through.
That same determination is now turning other lives around. Muna couldn't speak when she arrived at the center. Weeks later, her family noticed a striking difference.
We were really surprised because she was talking and understanding what she's saying. There was a lot of joy in the family because she also was happy that she could say things and people can understand what she's wanting and what she's trying to say.
Muna's father understands disabilities. He overcame childhood polio to earn a degree in business. Now his daughter is on her way to a more fruitful life as well. There are many more women in East Jerusalem and the West Bank who could use this kind of help.
I'm all the time praying that the Lord would give us a building that we could do all our work in under one roof. But if we do not have a building large enough, we cannot help half the people that we really mean to help.
Yet she is determined to keep the center's doors open.
Everybody in life, every child has to be given a chance to prove what they can do. Some people are going to be very successful, others not. It has nothing to do with blindness at all. But I believe that everybody should be given an opportunity.
Heather Sells, CBN News.
Great story. Well, you can learn more about the Peace Center for the Blind on our website. Just go to cbnnews.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Pat Robertson. This is an important time in the history of America. It's an important time in the history of CBN. And what you do is so very important now. But we've got to get the gospel out here in America. We've got to help the poor and the needy, feed those who are hungry, clothe those who are naked, bring medical attention to those who are suffering, and more than anything, bring hope to those who are without hope throughout the world. So your 700 Club membership makes a huge difference. And I ask you to go to your phone and call. If you haven't already called in, we appreciate what you've done so much. So don't slack. We don't want our hands to be empty. We want to say, Lord, here are those who have come to you because of my labors. Telephones are available, toll-free line, and we just thank God for each one of you. So don't hesitate to call and do it now.
Jesus performed miracles that changed the world, and he shared the secret to that power with you and me.
Get Gordon Robertson's latest DVD, Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer, and discover a deeper relationship with God, how to overcome evil, and realize the life-changing purpose God has for you.
Learn how to release the power of God's kingdom in your life.
Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer, available now.
I just started surfing 5 years ago. We actually said the Lord's Prayer when we got in the water the other day, and that's something I do. I watched Our Father recently, and I loved it. Gordon's teaching of the Lord's Prayer stood out. He's actually showing everybody, or he's teaching the steps to communicate with God. God wants us to be happy. He wants us to enjoy life. He's our Father, and he loves us.
Finally this week, CBN Superbook aired nationwide in the Philippines recently.
Yes, to rave reviews.
Yeah.
An estimated 1.2 million people watched the episode. In the Beginning, it's called. It was rated as one of the top programs of the day, according to a Nielsen rating report. And there were more than 1,800 salvations that we know of.
Yeah,
hopefully
terrific
even more.
production. Terrific, just excellent.
Very excellent. Well done. Yeah. And
Well,
it's really good. It's fun to watch.
It is. Well, you know what? It's the end of the show.
And it was fun to watch Christian World News.
Yeah, we got to go. Thanks for joining us this week, everybody.
Until next week, from all of us here, goodbye. And of course, God bless you.